Start, sir.
Thank you, Karan. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our dear professionals, students, faculties from across the nation. I would like to welcome you all on this Monday morning. Good morning, all of you, and thank you for joining us for this another wonderful session. So friends, I am Neeraj Arora. I am Senior Director at ASSOCHAM and look after the GEM Green Building Certification Program of ASSOCHAM. As you all are aware that ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Council is organizing a 7 days mega event where we are organizing 14 conferences on various aspects of sustainability, energy efficiency, water efficiency, and fire and life safety also. So friends, this session is jointly being organized by ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Council and Fire and Security Association of India. So we have experts on fire and life safety to talk on this technical session. So friends, here I would like to add that GEM is the only green building certification program which talks about fire and life safety. And our expert, Mr. Suresh Menon, will talk on this in his session. So friends, we have with us Engineer Mani Khanna, who is the co-chairman of ASSOCHAM GEM Events and Expo Committee. Thank you, Mani, for organizing this 7 days mega event. And this concept is really wonderful, and everybody is appreciating this concept. So thank you so much for this effort. Mr. Mani Khanna is the GEM certified professional also, and is the active member of GEM Punjab chapter also. So Mani, thank you for again, thank you so much for organizing this program under GEM chapter. Thank you so much. Mr. Mani is a FSCI Chandigarh chapter. Then we have Mr. Suresh Menon with us. Mr. Menon is the National President of Fire and Security Association of India. He is the advisor of ASSOCHAM GEM Maharashtra chapter as well. Thank you and welcome, Mr. Menon. Then we have Architect Surinder Bagaji with us. He is the Chairman of GEM Punjab chapter. Science History FSCI chapter. He is the Principal Architect, Sakar Nation. Welcome, Bagaji. And thank you so much for organizing this wonderful session, and most of all for selecting this wonderful topic, because our sustainable buildings are not fire safe. So we want our green and sustainable buildings to be fire safe also. Thank you so much, Raghavi. Then we have Mr. Ishwar Ayarji with us. He is the well-known consultant from. Welcome, Ishwarji. Welcome to this session. We have with us Mr. Ramesh Arora ji. To this program. Welcome. Mr. Pankaj, who is the National Chairman of ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Council, will be joining us sooner. We have with us Architect Dinesh Bhagat ji, who is the Co-Chairman of GEM Punjab chapter, and he is the Senior Architect, Technical Education, Government of Punjab. Welcome, Dinesh Bhagat ji, to this wonderful session. I am sure this session is going to be another wonderful program in this session. And now I would request Mr. Mani Khanna to please start and moderate the session. Over to you, Mani.
Right. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So welcome to this India's first Reality and Sustainability Expert Conclave 2020, which is being organized by ASSOCHAM, and it is being supported with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, ASSOCHAM GEM, NAREDCO, CBRE, and Hiranandani Group. So this is one of the first of its kind. Is real virtual and reality and sustainability conference and awards. So the intent of this virtual expo at acknowledging success, recognizing contribution, appreciating efforts, and celebrating growth of the contributors, as the real estate industry widely remains a major contributor to the economic development of any nation worldwide, according to a statement issued. So as per the Reality and Conclave. So this is the session which is being organized by ASSOCHAM GEM Chandigarh chapter in association with FSCI Chandigarh chapter. So in this first of its kind virtual Reality and Sustainability Expert Conclave, there are 7 days virtual program. There are 14 conferences where 100 plus speakers are being catered over here, and 10 plus nations of people are being attended this session, and they are involved as a speakers as well. So many of the national and international personalities are being a part of this conclave. So now welcome to this session, which is organized by ASSOCHAM GEM as a Chandigarh chapter in association with FSCI Chandigarh. So rest all of the details have been provided by Mr. Neeraj Arora as a Senior Director of GEM Expo earlier. So we have with us expert speaker, Mr. Suresh Menon. He is our chief guest of the session and he will be delivering a keynote address, and he is the National President of Fire and Security Association of India. He has been associated with FSCI for long, holding various posts: General Secretary, Vice Chair, earlier Secretary, FSCI Mumbai Chapter. He is an electronics engineer from Manipal Institute of Technology. He also holds a degree in marketing management from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. So he was a part of team which set up the India's most modern electronic security system manufacturing plant for Tatas. As a head of the security division, he was responsible in establishing India's first chain of central monitoring station across the country. So later he was a leading system integrator of fire, security and building automation, and also a winner of Frost and Sullivan Award. So currently he is the president of Fumen as well. So welcome Shri Suresh Menonji to this session, which is organized by ASSOCHAM GEM Chandigarh chapter in association with FSCI Chandigarh chapter. Over to you, sir, and welcome to this session.
Thank you. Respected Chairman of Green and Eco-Friendly Movement, Mr. Pankaj Darkarji, other eminent speakers of the day, Architect Surendra Bagaji, Chairman GEM Punjab Chapter, our Regional Director of FSCI, Mr. Rakesh Arora, Senior Director and Head of GEM Program, Mr. Neeraj Arora, Chair of GEM Events, Mr. Rajneesh Agarwal, Co-Chair of GEM Events, Mr. Moni Khanna, and other dignitaries. Good morning, and I carry the greetings from 8,500 plus members of Fire and Security Association of India to all of you on this auspicious day of Guru Nanak Jayanti. I would like to thank ASSOCHAM GEM and in particular Mr. Surendra Bagaji for inviting me for this session. I am particularly happy that ASSOCHAM has included fire safety sustainable buildings as a topic in their seven-day week-long series of sessions. It is not always that we see a conference on reality and sustainability with a full dedicated session devoted to only fire safety. Sustainability is a hot topic for everyone, whether it is architects, consultants, builders, and even for the government. The question is, for most of them, sustainability is use of energy-saving equipments or use of new generation sustainable raw materials during construction. Yes, friends, I agree totally. All these are important, but we also need to see if all this is leading to a fire-safe and sustainable building. I say that the challenge for architects and specifiers today should be how to ensure all buildings meet energy efficiency levels and other sustainable requirements, and ensuring buildings' comfort, aesthetics, and most importantly, safety. That is why I must congratulate ASSOCHAM GEM team for understanding the importance of fire and life safety and giving this important topic its due weightage. Thank you, GEM. Sustainability and fire safety are often treated as separate issues. Despite a long history of fires, destroying buildings and creating massive destructions and huge wastages, fire prevention measures are always and mostly seen as necessary evil and as an unwanted expense in many projects. All of us agree that the main objective of sustainable building design is to reduce or completely avoid any depletion of critical resources like energy, water, land, and raw materials. These buildings should prevent environmental degradation throughout their life cycles. One of the first steps when designing a sustainable building is to find ways and means of reducing waste. There are few things as wasteful as a burned down building. All that gains from green construction and energy efficient equipments are all lost in a single fire. Fire causes huge wastage of water, and one should not forget fire also generates CO2 and other greenhouse gases which is generated from the burning of the materials. Most importantly, partially or fully, we have to reconstruct the property, and it's a waste of both building materials and money. And don't forget, there is a pollution to consider and those carbon emissions. So my question to this August gathering is, why is that fire safety and sustainability often act as binaries? Why can't they go hand in hand? Why can't we build sustainable fire safe buildings? During the course of today's discussions, I'm sure various speakers will address this dichotomy. Interestingly, very few organizations have taken a lead in declaring that a building is sustainable only when it is also fire safe. Globally, many organizations carry out sustainable certification rating, but ASSOCHAM GEM certification is the first and the only rating system which gives weightage for fire and life safety in a building. Again, I must congratulate the GEM team under Mr. Darkar for this bold step. Such bold initiatives are required along with incentives so that we start seeing more and more fire sustainable buildings. At this juncture, let me inform you that we at FSA have started a process of auditing buildings for fire, life safety and security. This program is called FSA Suraksha Index. This is our way of recognizing a fire safe building. So my appeal to all of you, architects and builders especially, please get your facilities audited by FSA and help us create more and more fire safe buildings. In our pursuit to build sustainable buildings, we should always strive to keep occupants safe from fires and to limit the building's impact on the environment. I know it is not easy, but it is possible to work towards both these goals simultaneously. Efforts to improve sustainability solely by increasing energy efficiency without consideration of fire risk actually have the potential to increase the magnitude of risk factor. Material selection and design play a key role in determining whether sustainability can complement or counter fire safety. Incorporating fire risk mitigation measures along with good designs, construction methods, and building materials that can improve a building's survivability and reducing the life cycle environmental impact represent the next step in making buildings durable, fire safe, and thus sustainable. When any new sustainable material is introduced to the built environment, they tend to change the fire safety equations. So we need to actually redesign considering such new materials. While materials like rigid foam insulation, spray applied foam insulation, structural integrated panels, and foil insulation systems are beneficial for sustainability goals, they can contribute to fire spread and increase smoke production. So the material might be green, it might be sustainable, it might surely help in reducing the carbon print. But do we know how the materials behave when there is a fire? There is a lot of research being conducted by various international bodies like UL, Fire Protection Research Foundation, many more, to understand the safety challenges of green building. At this juncture, I must share with you details of a small experiment which was conducted by FM Global on the environmental impact of automatic fire sprinklers. Large-scale fire test was conducted on two identical living rooms with similar furnishings. It was planned that first sample living room be extinguished completely with the help of the fire services only. In the second living room, the fire was controlled by a single residential fire sprinkler for some time and until the final extinguishment was done by the firefighters. To quantify the environmental benefits of using fire sprinklers, various parameters were compared between the two fires, one with sprinkler and one with non-sprinkler. Use of sprinklers reduced the greenhouse emissions and it was much lower than the non-sprinkled fire by approximately 97.8%. Again, water usage to extinguish similar fires was 50% less in sprinklered living room. Additional analysis showed that if the test was conducted on a larger area other than the living room, the water saved could have been as high as 91%. pH value of the waste water from the non-sprinkled test was higher than what was in the permissible range. The water from the non-sprinkled test represented an environmental concern. In sprinklered room, flashover never occurred. In non-sprinklered room, flashover occurred within 5 minutes after ignition. What does it mean? Flashover means the fire would have spread to other rooms quickly and further causing more and more environmental damages. These results prove that fire resilience is one of the crucial parameters of sustainability of a building. A sustainable building starts with a fire-safe building. All of us have a responsibility. While we take pride in designing a good, sustainable building, we also should make it a point that all buildings we build are fire-safe. This is precisely what Fire and Security Association of India does. FSAI's basic objective is to spread the awareness of fire, life safety and security. Our mission is Surakshit Bharat. Challenges are many and we at FSAI know that what we do today will change the future and make India a much safer place. We know for sure Surakshit Bharat will not happen just like that. But we are ready to go through this long journey because we owe our children and women, the most vulnerable citizens of our society, a safe and secure life. We need to start practicing safety in our day-to-day life. Fire safety and security will not happen automatically. It needs to be cultivated in our lifestyle. Once we start this practice, first at our home, then at our immediate community, we'll soon realize that everyone around us is practicing safety and it will become a part of our culture. You will make safety a way of life. I would like to conclude by quoting former President Sri Abdul Kalam. You cannot change your future, but you can change your habits, and surely your habits will change your future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And you deliberated very well how the importance of fire safety system in a building would comply with the fire safe sustainable buildings. And this also complies with the ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Certification Program as well. So definitely this would be a great help and the motivation for all the attendees. Thank you very much, sir. So now moving further to our next speaker, who is Mr. Surinder Baga, architect by profession, and he has established architectural organization Sakar Foundation in Chandigarh. His works are published in many journals and newspapers of repute. Two of his churches were exhibited at 5th Asian Congress of Architects held at Lahore in Pakistan. Mr. Baga was given M. Vishweshwarya Award in 1995 by HUDCO for energy efficient housing design. His Baptist Church at Chandigarh is selected by Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy Sources and TERI as one of the best 41 energy efficient buildings in India. So he got Outstanding Concrete Structure Award from Indian Concrete Institute, and he has authored and co-authored many books at national and international level. He currently worked as chairman of IIA Chandigarh Punjab chapter for 2 terms, 2008 to 12, and he worked as chairman of IIA Publication Board and editor of Journal of IIA from 2013 to 15. He worked as member of high-powered Finance and Contract Committee of Chandigarh Municipal Corporation. He was chairman of Chandigarh Municipal Corporation Committee for Building and Roads. Currently, he is a member of Advisory Committee of India's Home Minister on Union Territories. Recently, he has been appointed as head of Chandigarh chapter of FSCI and chairman of GEM Punjab chapter. So he will be delivering a talk on earthquake safety under this session on fire and safe sustainable building. So welcome, sir, and look forward to a great session which would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mani. Thank you very much.
Bhagat sir, boliye.
Yes, please. Yes. First of all, we are grateful to the national team consisting of Dr. Sir and Neeraj ji for giving us this opportunity. And special thanks to my Chandigarh team, Punjab team for supporting us in all our endeavors. We have no words to convey our thanks to our National FSCI National President, Mr. Suresh Menon ji, because on my special request, he has agreed to be the chief guest for 2 days session. And for all architects and all citizens of India, today is a very lucky day because, as Menon sir said, it is a Guru Nanak Jayanti. And we are doing this session on a Guru Nanak Jayanti because Baba Guru Nanak has always advocated in his Gurbani about saving the environment. There is a shloka in Gurbani which says Pavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tat Mahat. It means that this wind is our guru and water is our father, like that, and this earth is our mother. So this is a shloka from Gurbani. So the brief given to us by Mr. Neeraj Arora and his national team was to focus on fire-safe buildings, but we have broadened the scope. We decided to cover even other safety measures like earthquake safety, road safety, and other measures to make the total to save the human lives from any sort of problems which we face in the building sector. I have chosen the topic to speak on earthquake-resistant buildings. Being an architect, I will throw some light on this. We know that what is the definition of a disaster. Disaster is normally defined as when the functioning of the society is totally stopped. The human life is totally disturbed. There's the environmental losses, there's the material losses. This is the definition of disaster. Disasters are of 2 types: natural disasters and man-made disasters. Natural disasters, there are many things which are coming under natural disasters. One is earthquakes, floods, tornadoes, fires, hurricanes, thunderstorms, and ice storms. These are the many types of the natural disasters. Coming to earthquake, this is the seismic map of India. It is indicating that India is divided into 4 zones. The zone 5 is a very risky zone because here the intensity of the earthquake is liable to be very high, and zone 4 is comparatively less intensive, and zone 3 is a moderate, and zone 2 is a low risk zone. And this is earmarked in the different colors in this slide. When any earthquake comes, obviously there's a huge loss of life. There is a huge loss of property. Then the invaluable heritage is totally lost whenever any earthquake comes. This communication networks break down always, and the power goes off. Transportation system stops working. The whole network, breaks down. Earthquakes have many types according to the intensity, according to the magnitude. And if we see the global occurrences of earthquakes, in the highest category is rated as great earthquake, which is when any earthquake is the magnitude is greater than 8. The global occurrence is one earthquake of great category comes in 1 year on an average. Then major earthquakes are which are more than 7 degree and less than 8 degree. About 18 major earthquakes comes in a year, and strong earthquakes are varying from 6 to 7 degree, and about 120 earthquakes come in 1 year. Moderate from 5 to 6 degree they vary, and about 800 numbers. You see the number. 800 earthquakes in 1 year of the moderate category comes around the globe. And in the light category, which is from 4 to 4.9, about 6,200 numbers come annually. And minor earthquakes are something like 50,000, and very minor, are so many. So you can see the intensity of the earthquakes, the numbers. I will quote some examples. In the year 2015, there was an earthquake of 7.9 magnitude, and it has shattered the entire Nepal. You see the damage which has occurred in Nepal. All buildings are broken, roads are broken, and there's a huge loss of property. In the year 2010 in Haiti, that is a Caribbean island, there was this very strong earthquake which has never come in the history of Haiti in the 200 years. Again, the same fate. The buildings are broken, the cars are broken, the human lives are lost. Even in Haiti, this is the president's palace. You see, even the president's palace was not, could not be saved. It has fallen when the earthquake came. Then in Indonesia, in the year 2004, there was an earthquake of the magnitude of 9.1. More than 2.27 lakh people have died in this earthquake, and it was very severe. You see, so many people injured, and more than 2.25 lakh people have lost their lives. And you see in the images, it was almost finished after the earthquake, the entire place. If we mark all the earthquakes which have occurred so far in India, this is a map, which is indicating small and big and bigger and biggest earthquakes which are marked on this map. You can see hardly any part of India is very safe. Earthquakes do come in every part of India. The intensity may vary from smaller to bigger one. We all know that when the buildings are designed to make the buildings safe, first of all, it is the role of the architect, because architect is the person who coordinates with the consultants, who coordinates with the engineers, and who gives the shape to the building, or who has a role to coordinate with the structural engineers to design the buildings. His role is very, very important. When we talk about the seismic design philosophy, we can have two models. One is earthquake-proof buildings, which are not possible. It's an unrealistic dream. You cannot make any building earthquake-proof. But the realistic approach is that we can make earthquake-resistant buildings. Earthquake-resisting buildings are possible, but earthquake-proof buildings are not possible because of budgetary constraints. These are the different plans of the buildings. It is showing whenever there is any bend in the plan, that is liable to be, exposed to the danger of earthquake. Earthquake forces are very active on corners. And you see, this is a building. When earthquake came, only the corner portion is fallen because that was more prone. Forces from both sides, come and the corner gets shattered, and the rest of the building is safe. In this plan, whenever any building is designed, the corners and the bends are to be dealt with very, very carefully. You need to provide expansion joints there, or you need to work out the shape according to the earthquake forces. And some success stories. This is the Imperial Hotel in Japan, which is designed by a famous American architect, Frank Lloyd Wright. This hotel, Frank Lloyd Wright is one of the master architects, which we used to study him in our syllabus in architecture. He designed this project in Tokyo. And Tokyo, we all know that Tokyo, Japan is highly earthquake prone. And in this project, a great care has been taken to make this building earthquake resistant. He said, the architect wrote in his notes that I am giving a huge water body in front of the hotel so that in case of fire, there's no need to bring water from outside. When there's an earthquake, earthquake mostly leads to fire, and we can use this water to extinguish the fire. In addition to that, he advocated that, we will have a low height building and we will have a concrete structure, and we will not conceal the cables in the RCC, in the concrete walls or in the concrete roof. And he opted for copper ceiling, which is flexible, and all those measures were taken. Expansion joints are provided at adequate places. And by adopting all these means, when this hotel was completed, surprisingly, on the inaugural day of this very famous hotel, there was a huge earthquake, and most of the buildings in that area are shattered or broken or fallen. Only this building sustained in that area, and that was the inaugural day of this building. And that has proved the architect right, because he convinced his clients that I want this kind of a building which is earthquake resistant. And because it has sustained, the building has sustained itself from earthquake, that is why it became a very famous building, in the history of India's modern architecture, in the history of the world's modern architecture. Then, with the passage of time, the technologies are are getting advanced. This is a Park City apartment block in Japan. It's a multi-story building which came into existence in the year 2000. This project is world's tallest base isolated structure. In this project, a new experiment was made where the building is not connected with its base. A special high-strength rubber bearings are placed at the bottom, like we have shockers in our cars or shockers in our scooters. It is something like that. When the earthquake comes, the shock is absorbed by that instrument which is designed at the bottom. You see, this is that instrument. They have put it in the basement, in the foundation part, and this bearing, takes the entire shock, and hence thereby no damage is caused to the building. So this was a new idea, and it works very well. Likewise, in this sketch, you can see this indicates what is the base isolation technique. Now, there's a at the bottom where the circle is, you can see how the building moves when the earthquake comes, and this bearing stops the building from falling down. And next example is this building in Taipei in Taiwan. The building name is Taipei 101. 101 is the number of stories, and this is before Burj Khalifa. This was considered to be the tallest building. And engineers and architects have claimed that this building, when it was designed, they have analyzed the data of earthquake and the wind pressure of the last 2,500 years. And this is C.Y. Lee Partners have designed it. It's a 500 plus meters high tower having 101 stories. And, it is one of the most successful projects from the earth safety point of view. And here they have used a new technology. At the top of the building, from 91st floor to the 88th floor, they have put a very huge a ball kind of a substance which works like a pendulum. It's a pendulum style 700-ton tuned mass damper, which is hanging from 91st floor, and it is reaching up to 88th floor. When the earthquake comes, this pendulum, moves to the reverse direction. If the building moves to the right, this pendulum moves to the left side. And it is so heavy that it brings the building back to the position. It never let the building sway beyond a point. Hence, thereby, this building never falls down. And this is a very unique experiment, very scientific, it's a piece of engineering excellence. And this is the mass, 700 ton, this is a pendulum which I was talking about. And as I said, the engineers are claiming that they have studied the data of 2,500 years to arrive at such decisions. And when we talk about India, we all know that there was an earthquake in Gujarat, and a existing hospital in Bhuj were destroyed, and even the patients there died. So the government of Gujarat at that time decided to construct a new hospital at the same location, which will be, the first building in India to use base isolation technology. So this is the first building in India in which base isolation technology was used. In Gujarat, we all know that, about 1 lakh people were largely destroyed during the devastating earthquake, and more than 14,000 people died. And this hospital where this present building is positioned, there was an old hospital which got destroyed, and it killed nearly 200 patients and the staff members, because the hospital building itself was not safe. And in Japan, even the technology is further getting advanced. Now they are making a large-scale models of the buildings, very scientific models of the buildings. And in the before execution, they test the strength of the building by shaking the floor of the building on a given magnitude. The floor is shaken, and if the building there's any fault occurs, then the model is rectified, and before executing the building on ground, all the studies are undertaken. So Japan is one of the top nations which has done a lot of good work in the earthquake safety. This is the one building which is being tested in the lab before being executed in Japan. So the conclusion of my talk is in order to make the buildings earthquake resistant, it is important to make the buildings symmetrical. It is important to create separation joints between different blocks and at the bends. And the simple buildings are more earthquake resistant. And we should avoid cantilevers, and we should opt for RCC framed structures. Steel structures are not that safe, it is believed. And in addition to that, we can avoid double height stairs, and all junctions of columns and beams should be properly secured. And with this note, I close. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your and enlightened us with the great information on earthquake safety, which is a great topic, and I'm sure it requires a major importance of architecture role while designing and the structural consultant role while construction of the building. Thank you very much, sir. And continue moving further to our next speaker for this session. It will be Mr. Iswar Iyer, who is a fire consultant from Mumbai, who will be talking on fire safety. So I'll be reading his brief profile. He is an engineering graduate from the Mumbai University with over 30 years of experience in the fire protection industry. He has worked for Nomi Bosai besides Tyco Group, Netherplat, Honeywell and Notifier. He is currently a fire protection consultant. Over the years, he has worked in design and estimation, contracts, sale and marketing, business development and codes and standards. So some of the projects he has worked in, including raising awareness of environmental issues related to HFCs, establishing the Center of Excellence to provide estimation, design and engineering services to Tyco Safety Products Officer in the Asia Pacific region. Mr. Iswar has also written and presented various technical papers to the Loss Prevention Association, LPA, Practicing Engineers, Architects and Town Planners Association, PEATA, and the Asia Pacific Fire, APF magazine. He chaired the IFFSEC conference in India, acted as a speaker in several major seminars, including the LNG Third World Summit in Tokyo and the Hydrocarbon Seminar in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and several conferences across India. So welcome, Mr. Sir, for the great session, and look forward to your talk on the fire safety.
Your screen is visible, sir?
Is it visible now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Good morning to all the participants and speakers. On behalf of FSCI, I would like to thank ASSOCHAM for this opportunity to make a presentation on the topic of fire safety. Since I only have 15 minutes to present this huge topic, I'll get started without much ado. My presentation will essentially define key terms like fire hazard, fire triangle, flashover, fire service attendance time and fire cover, NCRB fire-related statistics to sensitize the audience, and then touch on the fire safety objectives, National Building Code approach to fire and life safety, and conclude the presentation with few slides on fire safety challenges of green buildings. So basically, before we talk about fire and life safety, we need to know about fire hazards. Fire hazards are anything that may create a fire. As you can see on the right-hand side of my slide, of course, the fire triangle, and you can see that the fire hazards come in three categories. Sources of ignition or heat. Fire requires oxygen and fuel reacting with each other at a temperature exceeding a threshold temperature, obviously, because let's say you have flammable liquid, then we're talking about a flash point, and when you have it in the right stoichiometric proportions, then at that particular temperature, when it is get ignited, then it's going to create a fire. So you need to have the threshold temperature. It's not that the fuel and the heat source are close together, but you also need a certain minimum threshold temperature for the fuel to get ignited. Then you have the sources of fuel, which could be liquid, solid, or gas. Then the source of oxygen, an oxidizing agent can sometimes react directly with the air, like certain metal fires. You don't need any ignition source. It's just the oxygen that you have in the air that can ignite it. So identifying the fire hazards is the first step of any fire risk assessment so that you can calculate the risk and then work on ways to reduce the risk and prevent fire happening. So you can see just below the fire triangle is the three elements of the fire, the three legs of the fire triangle shown, which is heat, fuel, and oxygen. And basically, we're talking about removal. So with removal of the heat could be using sprinklers or fire hydrants or water spray systems or gaseous suppression. Then the fuel could be starving it. Like let's say you could shut off the fuel valve, then you're starving the fuel so that you're not continuing the fuel supply for the fire to sustain. And the oxygen, you're basically trying to smother. Smothering could be by either inerting it, or it could be by adding foam to smother or using some extinguishers like DCP, so you have smothering. So these are the techniques for the handling the fire situation. Now let's look at certain potential fire hazards in the workplace. There are about 50 of them listed in this. I'm not going to read all of them, but I like to highlight some of the hazards which are more related to the commercial building, because that's what we are looking at, sustainable buildings. So if you look at the ignition fire hazards, you have smoking materials, electrical faults, radiated heat, cooking equipment, overloaded electrical circuits, static electricity, friction, hot surfaces, and electrical equipment, which are all there in a typical commercial building or even in a residential building. Then you have fuel fire hazards like paper, cardboard, packaging, waste, furniture, textiles, like in the form of draperies and the upholsteries, fixtures and fittings, electrical insulation, metals, wood, plastics, foam, sealants, structural materials, wall linings, ceiling linings, flooring, and cladding. Then you have the oxygen fire hazards, the third leg of the fire, could be the open windows, open doors, natural ventilation, air conditioning systems, holes in the structure, and oxidizing materials. Not much in a commercial building situation, but the other ones, the ones which have been highlighted before, they are quite prevalent in most of the commercial buildings. Now, let's define a few terms to understand further about the gravity of the fire situation when things go out of hand. So, flashover. Flashover essentially happens when you have a fire which involves basically the entire room, and you have the fire basically going, or the flames going from the floor to the ceiling. Now, if you typically look at the growth of a fire, you can see on the temperature and the time curve, it's basically you have a growth stage, then it leads to flashover, then you have a fully developed stage, and then it decays. Now, the growth stage typically is dependent upon the type of the fuel. Like for a certain particular type of fuel, the heat release rate, if you look at it, when we say heat release, it's typically defined in megawatt per second. So let's say for a particular fuel, the heat release rate will be such that it's about 1 megawatt reached in 130 seconds. And there could be another fuel in the enclosure where this would reach in 80 seconds. So it depends upon the type of the fuel. Now, the key thing to understand is when a fire basically reaches the flashover stage, it becomes very difficult to rescue people or save the property. So this is the basic thing which a fireman or a firefighter dreads. Now, depending upon the risk category, and before that, let me also sensitize you about the flashover, the timing. Earlier days, when the furnishing was not synthetic, typically the flashover would be reached within, say, 6 to 7 minutes. But with the modern room, where you have furniture which are using synthetic materials, the flashover could occur within, say, between 3 minutes and 3 to 4 minutes, to To be more precise, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, depending upon the risk category and per the GIS-based network analysis, GIS meaning the geographical information and the spatial information, the recommended response time by RMSI. RMSI is basically a global leader in geospatial and engineering solutions. They were hired by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they came to the conclusion that for the first fire tender, the recommended response time would be 5 to 7 minutes in urban areas, if that is what is required, and 20 minutes in rural areas. Now, based on this metric, the RMSI study found that there is an overall gap of about 65%, a staggering 65%, in terms of number of fire stations in the entire country. So, what is the upshot of all this? So the attendance time, typically what we talk about, the fire attendance time, from the time you alert the fire brigade till the time they attend, that's called the attendance time, and the fire cover meaning essentially what is used to describe the deployment and distribution of the fire appliances in a particular situation. This can be exacerbated by delays experienced in reaching the buildings, often located in densely populated and congested urban areas with traffic gridlock. Now, typically beyond 5 minutes, that is beyond the flashover stage, flashover we said was about 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Beyond 5 minutes, any increase in the attendance time of fire appliances means an increase in the probability of death. You can see the curve on the left where it is a plot in the y-axis on the probability of deaths for fire and the attendance time. So you can see that as the attendance time increases, the probability of death increases. Now, let's look at certain vital statistics so that it will sensitize us about the seriousness of the problem that we have in our country. According to the FICCI, Pinkerton India Risk Survey Report 2018, fire outbreak is the third biggest risk to business continuity and operations. And according to the National Crime Records Bureau Report 2019, a total of 11,037 cases of fire accidents were reported in the country during 2019, which rendered 10,915 deaths and injuries to 441 persons. So essentially, this 10,915 deaths typically translates to about 35 deaths a day. The cost-wise analysis of fire accidents in the country revealed that 58% of the deaths were reported in residential and dwelling buildings, and 3% of the total deaths were reported in commercial buildings during 2019. Domestic gas cylinder explosion accounted for 330 deaths, where obviously the woman of the house suffered the brunt, 213 female out of the 330 and 117 male. Probably it might get skewed with the quarantine workload that we have in the pandemic. The electrical short circuit accounted for 1990 deaths, which in this particular case is more of the males falling prey to that, 1649 males and 341 females. So let's look at fire and life safety objectives. We have defined fire hazard, we defined what's a fire triangle, we defined the various hazards that we find in a commercial building. Then we said, okay, let's look at what is the gravity of the situation over here in terms of casualties. Now, how do we alleviate this, if not eliminate this? So basic fire and life safety objectives would be to protect the people, building occupants, firefighters, the neighbors, protect the property, fire within, between, and external to the building, protect the business operations. It's important to understand that any organization which suffers a fire, they find it difficult to come back into operation. Some of them just go bust and business operations cannot happen. And now, with so much of interdependencies when it comes to the supply chain and the manufacturing not being under one roof, so it becomes far more important that even the other partners in the production process or the manufacturing process, they have their fire resilience and fire safety practices up to the mark, so that any fire in a particular location which should not impact the business operation. Then, of course, protect the environment, which is of the key concern that we are discussing now, limiting the environmental impacts. As Suresh mentioned in his keynote address, having a sprinkler and not having a sprinkler and protecting it, and then just depending on the fire services to attend the fire, and the impact of the emissions and the water going into the sewage, all these will have impacts on the environment. And of course, protecting heritage, because it's something priceless and irreplaceable. So the upshot of all this, right? So we talked about the flashover, we talked about the fire attendance time, and the essentially also the fire cover. Now, the thing is, how does it all stack up? So given the shortfall in the number of the fire stations, right, essentially the fire cover, and the equipment and manpower, which consequently impact the response time and fire rescue operation, then what is the way out? The way out is typically to ensure that systems comply with certain standards, the least being the prescriptive codes, which are basically talking about the minimum requirements. So in India, the approach to fire and life safety, a good document and a guideline to follow would be the National Building Codes. And if you look at the National Building Code Part 4, which addresses fire and life safety, there are essentially three approaches: the fire prevention, life safety, and the fire protection. And this is essentially specified, the requirements are specified for each building occupancy. There are typically the 9 occupancy classification. Group A is the residential, Group B educational, Group C is the institutional, Group D is the assembly building, Group E is the business building, Group F is mercantile, Group G is industrial, Group H is storage, and Group J is hazardous. So within this, again, you have subcategories. I won't dwell too much on that, but this is basically the overview of how the approach to fire and life safety is in the National Building Codes Part 4. Now, one observation is on the Group G industrial, there is a mention that this is essentially for industries which have a turnover of less than 1 crore. I think today you don't even get a flat at that price. So obviously, I hope that will get amended, because even in the recent speech given by the finance minister, the small scale industries and MMSI would typically be having a turnover much in excess of 1 crore. I don't recall the exact figure. So this probably needs to be amended. Otherwise, it gives a false impression that Group G industrial is for any type of industrial building. But essentially, what the NBC specifically says is for the small scale. And by definition, small scale, at least 1 year ago, was anything having a turnover of less than 1 crore. Again, after this, we have the classification, but there may be some buildings which may be of mixed occupancies, and in such instances, the occupancy which commands the highest risk would be essentially the occupancy that would govern the fire safety requirements. Now let's look at fire prevention, life safety, and fire protection. Essentially, we talked about those 3 elements or the 3 approaches. Fire prevention essentially relates to the structural components of the building. You might have heard about the material and the type used for construction, and that is quite important when we talk about sustainability. It's we have to ensure that the stability, the integrity, and the insulation bodies are taken care of. Then the other elements to the fire prevention would be access road to the building, the setbacks around the building, the height of the building, the floor area, and the layout. So NBC states specific limitations for each of the occupancies, what we examined about the 9 occupancies. Then, of course, the glazing, the facade, the interior finishes, and, of course, the fire command center. Then it also talks about certain support facilities like the substations, then lightning protection, electrical installation, emergency power for fire and life safety systems. And I would like to add here that Part 3 also would need to be considered when Part 4 is being considered for the fire and life safety objectives to be fulfilled, because Part 3 also has certain requirements which cannot be, therefore the Part 4 cannot be taken in isolation. Some of the requirements of Part 3 also needs to be embedded when it comes to the life safety and fire prevention, fire and life safety requirements. Now, life safety essentially would be the provisions in the event of fire and similar emergencies required to minimize the danger to life from fire, smoke, fumes, or panic. Now, 60 to 65% of the fatalities that happen are going to smoke. So it's important that detection is in place so that we have an early warning detection system. So life safety would look at the exit requirements, the location, capacity and number of exit, doors, stairs, ramps, corridors, signages. All these are very well addressed in the National Building Code. Then the smoke control, this could include the staircase and the lift lobby, pressurization, smoke exhaust and ventilation. Then detection and alarm, this include detection, alarm and voice evacuation and other specialized detection systems. And of course, to supplement all this, we need the fire drills, fire orders and audits, because without the proper training and the mock drills, these systems will be of not great use. So regular fire audits, inspection, testing and maintenance of the systems and fire drills along with the staff training, it cannot be overstated. Then the actual fire protection, it basically relates to the selection and installation of correct type of fire suppression equipment specified for each occupancies. Like for instance, the fire extinguishers, the type of extinguisher to be used depending upon the class of fires. It's well mentioned, well illustrated in the 2190 and of course the UL10. Then the fixed fire fighting installations, the fire pumps, the hydrants, hose reels, automatic sprinklers, automatic gas suppression, foam suppression systems, water mist systems. And Table 7 essentially tells very clearly what type of fire protection philosophy needs to be followed for each of the occupancies. Again, these are guidelines and one needs to clearly address the fire hazards and the risk that we talked about initially. Now, there are also other standards besides the NBC, like the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 101, and the Life Safety Code, and the NFPA 5000 and the building codes. But essentially, in India, we follow the NBC. There may be some corporates who might look at NFPA, besides, of course, the NBC. And also, essentially, the annexures A to M further supplement, like typically what would be the fire protection requirements for a metro, the high-rise buildings, and also other types of construction, the hazardous buildings. So these are the three elements of, or the three approaches to the fire and life safety as enshrined in Part 4 of the NBC, and these are further amplification is done in the NBC. And most important to understand is that the IS codes, which are highlighted in the appendix of the NBC Part 4, are the companion standards, and they would need to be followed and adhered to because they tell you how to do it. NBC says probably what to do. Now, again, some of the codes need revision and they need to be harmonized so that there is no contradiction between the NBC and the IS codes. Like few of them are quite apparent, and I understand that NBC committee is addressing this. Like if you look at the risk category, like you have light, moderate, and high, you would see that NBC talks about certain categories of risk as light, whereas if you look at the fire sprinkler standard, the Indian standard, the same risk would be categorized as moderate hazard. So obviously there is a dichotomy and that needs to be resolved, because if somebody were to bid for a job considering the NBC, where the requirement is stated as a light hazard, and somebody bids for a project thinking that I'll follow the IS and they consider the moderate hazard, obviously the assumed maximum area of operation, the water demand, everything will be different. So it's important that people don't take shelter on one standard and probably don't understand the real implications of what the risk category should be. So I hope all the standards get harmonized and any discrepancies that we are currently noting are all addressed Like another one example I could give is typically the NBC calls for a variable speed drives, and nowhere in the world do you require that kind of a requirement unless you're talking about very high-rise buildings and where you will need to have the fire affinity laws where you have to change the speed to change the head of the pump. But a typical firefighting pump in any location, even up to say 200 or 300, 250, 73 meter cube per hour, you really don't need a variable fire speed. In fact, one of the IS codes says that it has to be a DOL, if you look at 13039. So I'm just highlighting these because these are glaring discrepancies and they need to be corrected. And I understand from one of the webinars that was conducted by a body that these are going to be addressed. Now, let's switch gears. Let's talk about sustainability. If ignitions and fires are limited, that is good for the environment, right? As Suresh talked about, if you have sprinklers and when you don't have sprinklers, how it affects the sustainability. The materials can be made more ignition and fire resistant. Automatic sprinklers can reduce overall size of the fire and the fire effluence, meaning the emissions, and also the runoff that will happen after the fire water that is basically discharged into the fire scene goes into the sewerage. Proper separation and fire resistance of the exterior limits, building to building, fire spread potential, could be the facade, could be basically the fire leapfrogging from one floor to the top floor, or maybe even to an adjoining building if they are virtually kissing each other. Fewer fire definitely means lower impact from building and fire department apparatus and emissions, because the fire department would typically be using very high capacity hose streams, and again that could mean you're going to have more water runoff, and if you're going to have a fire which is quite huge, obviously you're going to have CO2 emissions. Now, one of the things that Suresh brought about in his keynote address was very pertinent, and he said we are seeing a dichotomy between sustainability and resiliency, and that's a hot topic today. When I say today, I mean currently. Something which is hot from the press, October 2020, and this report you can find in the NFPA website also. And I am quoting from this report, which very clearly elucidates the gravity of the situation and how we need to focus on this particular issue. SAFR buildings, right? Sustainable and fire resistance. A good word, we can call it a suffer because it's a good Hindi word, suffer. So I think we are on a suffer on this particular journey to make the building more fire resilient and sustainable. So if we look at this particular concept, these are buildings which are designed to be both sustainable in terms of reducing or eliminating negative impacts on our climate and natural environment, and resilient in terms of their ability to safeguard people, property, operations, and environment from unwanted fire. The aim is to basically promote a holistic and integrated approach to achievement of SAFR objectives in building design and this is extremely important since some significant fires associated with green building features, attributes, and technologies have been observed. And this is fairly well documented in the report also. Just to quote few of them, the Grenfell Tower in London, combustible insulation, the Dietz and Watson Cold Storage Warehouse in Delanco, New Jersey, photovoltaic panels, combustible insulation, and a spate of fires in buildings under construction using lightweight timber framing. May not be a major issue in our country because we don't use much of lightweight timber framing, but definitely the photovoltaic cells, solar panels is an area of concern, and we need to address, besides, of course, the insulations and the linings, which Suresh also mentioned in his keynote address. And at the bottom, I have quoted the publication, which is titled Fire Safety Challenges of Green Buildings and Attributes, a report of Fire Protection Research Foundation report. and the report is dated October 2020. And on the right, you see basically a concept of how you can strive towards SAFR building so that you can achieve sustainability targets and resiliency targets for fire events. Now, I would like to basically highlight some excerpts from two reports so that architects and fire engineers and the people who are involved in the design process are sensitized. And this one is from the fire safety challenges, which I referred to in my previous slide. This is succinctly put: a green building is not so green if it burns down and needs to be reconstructed. Well said. Now, this report notes that gaps remain and strategies for proactively incorporating fire performance into development of new green building materials and features, product development, are lacking. The tools to proactively assess the fire performance of green building materials, systems, and features at the product level, example, fire performance testing, as installed in buildings, are lacking. And a broader building regulatory framework and design philosophy for achieving sustainable and fire resilient SAFR buildings is also lacking. Probably the chapter on sustainability that we have in the NBC could probably need an overhaul so that they address this issue of certification and a reassurance that the product not only fulfills the environmental categories, but also is fire resilient. Here is another one, which is an excerpt from the Quantification of Green Building Features on Fire Safety 2000. It's a report which was in 2011. I feel that even though we are about 9 years down the line, this problem still persists. As was also noted in the previous report, because the previous report was of the fire safety challenges of green buildings and attributes, was prepared by a consultant, BCHAM, for the Fire Research Foundation. This was in the year 2012. And when they published the report, the revised report in 2020, 8 years, they did take cognizance of the improvements that were there, but they still found a lot of gaps, which was highlighted before. The three issues that I brought about things that were lacking currently, which are lacking currently. Now, the excerpt from this particular report says that a green building may have higher performances for the environmental categories, the energy efficiency, material efficiency, and indoor environment quality compared to a building built based on current building codes. At the same time, these qualities in green building construction can have the potential to alter fire performance in a building as a whole, and it is vital that these differences can be measured and quantified to understand the additional impacts on fire performance of a building. So probably bodies like CBRI, and I don't know whether there are other private bodies who can basically test and certify, saying that they meet the performance categories as required to meet the environmental criteria and also the fire resiliency. Some views expressed by experts on green building practices. One is from Robert Solomon, Division Manager for Building and Life Safety at the National Fire Protection Association. He says, we are seeing green designs that prescriptive codes don't address or have not even considered yet. And this is a quote which is just a couple of years old. The second one comes from Craig Hofmeister, Vice President of Engineering Technology for RGA Group. Again, this is fairly current. The new methods and materials that are used to support green building concepts can result in specific fire hazards, just like in traditional building design, which means green concepts should be reviewed as part of a fire protection and life safety analysis, which is what Suresh also emphasized in his keynote address. Experts are careful to caution that green building designs do not equate to increased fire and life safety standards. Rather, owners of green buildings might have to be aware that green designs can present previously unconsidered challenges that arise as a result of construction choices. So there is one solution Again, that calls for expertise. Performance-based design metrics can be used as a tool to resolve conflicts between progressive green design elements and prescriptive codes. I'd like to conclude this with observations of the FM report on the influence of risk factors on sustainable development. This report provides two conclusions that should be points of focus when studying the impact of green building and our environment. First, efforts to improve sustainability solely by increasing energy efficiency without consideration of risk, read fire, have the potential to increase the relevance of risk factors by a staggering factor of 3. Second, without effective fire protection systems, the risk of fire increases the carbon emissions by 30 to 40 kg of carbon dioxide per square meter, an increase of 1 to 2% over the life cycle of a standard office building, and can add up to 14% to the carbon emissions over the lifetime of a facility exposed to extensive fire hazard. Now, with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I hope you found this session useful. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your views and provided detailed information on fire safety, equipments, and importance of fire safety in green building and sustainable building. Thank you very much, sir, for your detailed presentation and joining this session today. Moving further, we have with us Mr. Pankaj Dharkar, who is National Chairman on GEM Council at ASSOCHAM. So he is a very renowned person, and he is an MEP consultant based out at Ahmedabad. He is working on various projects nationally and internationally. I have very long profile of Mr. Pankaj Dharkar, even more than 45 pages profile we have with us. But keeping short and to constraint with the time, so I just briefly touch upon the success story of Mr. Pankaj Dharkar. He is involved in designing sustainable, high performance, energy efficient building engineering services since last 40 years. So he believes that energy efficiency and renewable energy are the two pillars of sustainability. And energy efficient building system, indoor air quality, water efficiency, fire and life safety, and renewable energy he is currently working upon. Undertaking his well-defined authority, he distinguished himself with his first assignment at Volta as a project engineer and served dedicatedly for 9 years. He then accepted the challenges of reinventing DCPL, a consulting company, and then his grit and determination helped the organization to attain success during 17 years of his association. He oversaw the creation of his own consultancy firm, Pankaj Dharkar and Associates, in 2006 in the field of providing complete MEP design engineering, green building, and fire safety services. And he expanded his origin in green building certification. And he is a fellow ASHRAE member, GEM, FSCI, Presidential ASHRAE member, and many more. Contains the list is very long. So keeping short, I would like to welcome Mr. Pankaj Dharkar as a guest of honor in this session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Moni, for that long introduction. My thanks to FSAI for partnering into this sustainability conclave. And when I was hearing my dear friend Ishwar, I was delighted that probably, and I would like to highlight Ishwar that, and I repeat again, that GEM is the only certification program in the world. Ishwar, I must repeat again. GEM is the only certification program in the world which recognizes the fire and life safety, and in our credit system. No, you will not find credits for fire and life safety in any other certification program. It is only GEM, and only GEM in the world. First time that we have started this, and a lot of people were asking me what is that, why FSAI is partnering, and you have done such a wonderful presentation that I want to use you for our GEM for many more programs to come further. Ishwar, your presentation was fantastic and you drew some important points, and that is the reason why we want to work with FSAI and also create this awareness in India. And I'm sure the NBC will take note of whatever good is. To me, every standard, the standard from 2005 to 2016 has been a fantastic document. And the standards are meant for improvement and constant corrections are required. And you rightly said that many important corrections, and with respect to the material contents, especially considering fire and life safety, I think these changes will happen. So I have no words, Ishwar. I was really happy to see your presentation and the points which you came out and various observations of various international societies and authorities. So I will take presentation of yours from you and from this forum. So I will just focus on what GEM is all about. So GEM, ASSOCHAM has started this green initiative, and ASSOCHAM is out of 400 chambers. You would have heard MCCI, PhD chambers, they are all part of ASSOCHAM. So we are working towards creating a conducive environment for India to compete globally. And currently the association is headed by Niranjan Hiranandani ji. And ASSOCHAM has taken this green initiative to take care of Mother Earth and created this Council of Green and Sustainable Movement. So CGEM is what we normally call this. Our program can be downloaded free of cost. We are constantly upgrading it. Neeraj and his team is doing fantastic work helping us. So we are, in fact, yesterday only launched a new certification program for healthcare. On 3rd, we are launching for warehousing, and this is a constant upgradation we are doing. So our program is based on National Building Code of 2016 and also the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Day for yesterday, we had a beautiful presentation by architects on heritage buildings of India and how do we renovate them. And it was very eye-opener that there are buildings 200 years old which are now getting renovated, and those were all green buildings, primarily because of the way the construction and the orientation, where the passive architecture was used. And it was a fantastic session, but what we are trying to see is how do we correct them is something which we. So ours is also the only certification program where we are centrally monitoring the power consumption, the energy consumption, the indoor air quality. And Ishwar, for your information, we are going to interlink this with the local fire officers. So any certified building, if any incidence is there from fire detection, we get into our system in Delhi. We will call up those individual fire officers or the fire station and intimate them as a additional service. So of course, eventually as the smart city program develops and the things get automatically reported is something which is going to take time. So this is going to be intermediate service. We have our association with various societies like Indian Institute of Architects, ISHRE, Lighting Society, ISLE, GSES, Smart Habitat Foundation, and various chapters of ASHRE. We are very glad to put on record that GEM certification program has now got recognition from Government of Rajasthan for getting the FAR benefits, and I'm sure our chapter leaders in Punjab, Surinder ji, under his able leadership, will soon have recognition coming from Punjab and other states of the country. We are already recognized by CRISIL, apart from other certification programs, like GRIA, IGBC, USGBC. GEM is also listed in CRISIL. Our projects which start from Abbott Pharmaceutical, a pharmaceutical project, to JK Cement, to electrical and electronics giant like Siemens, to varieties of numerous universities ranging to ITC Hotel and Hilton Hotel are already covered, and we are looking forward for these numbers to grow. We have chapters in Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat, which were installed before pandemic, and during this pandemic, we went to UP, Karnataka, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, and Maharashtra, and now we will be moving to 20 states under the guidance of Tusharji. He's driving this, and we are also having programs with adjoining countries like Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Vietnam. We have speakers in this forum, this 7 days forum from 10 countries. During this pandemic, we did 2 excellent notable work apart from other seminars. One was taking out guidelines for opening lockdown, which happened with the help of ISHRE, FSCI, EMA, and IPA. And this was taken to 29 states and 6 union territories by ASSOCHAM, and it is well recognized. The second work, which is noteworthy, is coming up with World Bank and Bureau of Energy Efficiency on energy performance contracting model, where we could upgrade the older non-efficient technologies with newer technology without investment of owners. So this is something where we believe there could be a potential of 1,50,000 crore, and post-pandemic, this can create a lot of job opportunities to the professionals. We have an interesting and very simple way of getting GEM certification. We have every month a free program which Neeraj is organizing for training the people, and that training program is free, but you can give an online exam anytime. It's a 90-minute exam, 24/7 open book exam, and you can be a GEM professional once you clear that. We have done a very commendable job in last few months, last 4.5 months during this pandemic. We have signed MOUs with 62 universities. We do believe that the young minds and architects and engineers are the future for the country, and we do believe that future all buildings should be constructed as green. And I must note extraordinary work which is being done by my Punjab chapter under leadership of Bagaji, Moniji. Fantastic work. We have maximum number of universities from Punjab who are part of this MOU and affiliation of GEM. So thank you very much to Punjab leadership for driving this program, and I'm sure more will come, but great work done by the team of Punjab. During the 7 days, today we are on the 4th day, the middle, we have passed 50% programs, and I'm very glad that thousands of people are attending this program and taking advantage. We have varieties of programs. Today evening we have challenges in high-rise building coming up from our Maharashtra chapter. Each day 2 chapters are participating into it. Today's program was organized by Punjab chapter. Evening is Maharashtra chapter, and again other chapters are coming up with beautiful programs. Please go to our website and do attend. We have more than 120 speakers lined up during these 7 days, and incredible work done by entire GEM team. Thank you very much. And we are here to take forward our Prime Minister's vision of making this country green and environment friendly and sustainable country. Thank you very much. Thank you, Punjab chapter. Thank you, Bagaji and Moniji, for inviting me. Fantastic job being done by you. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for sharing the great information related to GEM work, which is being done in the various parts related warehousing and the healthcare facility, and there are many new and existing buildings. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence. So moving further, we have with us Mr. Rakesh Arora, who is FSCI Regional Director North. Mr. Arora, CEO and founder of Messrs. Pacific Fire Controls, has an experience of over 25 years in the field of passive fire protection. With his own experience, has tried to introduce various technologies in the fire industry, such as fire-rated glass, panic bars, evacuous chairs, fire curtains, etc. All these products have been extensively used into the Indian market, and his research and development towards the new technology have always remained the part of his energetic working. He has visited to various countries as a part of Indian delegation by UK Trade Commission, Italian Trade Commission, South Korea Trade Commission, and many more. Mr. Arora is also associated with FSCI since 2004 with the sole aim of creating awareness among the general public towards fire and life safety. So welcome, sir, and look forward to the concluding remarks for this great session organized by GEM and FSCI Chandigarh chapter.
Thank you, Mani. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction you have given to us. To me, I don't know whether I deserve that or not, but then thank you so much. Thank you, Neeraj ji, for creating this session wherein various participants have expressed their views and given the details to us. Yes, the purpose of giving the concluding remarks has been given to me, and I would like to start with our chief guest, Mr. Suresh Menon, who expressed that sustainability is the use of new products, but challenge remains the fire safety along with all other parameters. Fire means CO2 emission, use of excess water, pollution. Sustainable fire safe buildings should be the target of as per our Mr. Menon. There are many studies which has proved that use of fire safety measures help save a lot of property and saving water also. Habits change future. Let's follow that. I will come to Mr. Baga. As per him, we should design safe, secure, and sustainable buildings and other infrastructure. Human lives are very precious. Efforts should be made by owners of buildings, architects, engineers, and other consultants to design safe buildings. Buildings should be safe from earthquake. Mr. Baga talk on this subject is an eye-opener and very educative and informative. His presentation showed few buildings which was really good enough, and it's good that in Bhuj the building have come up onto the new technology and giving us the earthquake safe buildings. We'll come on Mr. Iyer. Mr. Menon says fire safe buildings, but the question is how? Mr. Ishwar Iyer presented a good light on how buildings can be fire safe. Flashover, attendance time, fire cover. The vital status shown are an eye-opener by Mr. Iyer. He has done extensive research on so many things, and he has given us a very good presentation on the fire safety. Safety objectives of fire and earthquake is basically protection of life and property. His presentation also says that follow NBC, though there are some discrepancies mentioned somewhere, but then with the passage of time, there are committees who are working on the NBC and who are working on the IS codes. I'm sure that the discrepancies will be covered up very soon. Yes, we need to point out those discrepancies so that the respective teams can do some work on that. Reference to two reports are very important as shown in his presentation. Thank you, Ishwar sir. Mr. Dharkar, of course, he is the master of all subjects and a very knowledgeable person. Thank you, Dharkar sir. Fire safety has to go along with the green buildings and sustainable buildings. I also put focus that FSCI joining hands with all other associations and contributing towards safety and security. Thankful to Dharkar ji, who is trying his best to link all associations and societies in one place so that jointly the overall focus on safety, security can be provided. Thank you so much from my side to all the speakers who over here, and thank you to all the organizers who did this session in a very much professional way. Thank you, Mani, for being there.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your concluding remarks. And we also got a very good messages on the WhatsApp that the session got very well and very knowledgeable for all the participants. So thank you very much, each and every speaker, for sparing the time. So for official vote of thanks, I would now like to invite Architect Dinesh Bhagat, who is co-chairman of GEM Punjab chapter and senior architect at Technical Education, Government of Punjab. So welcome, sir.
Very good afternoon. It is my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for the contribution of each and everyone for having made this a memorable session. We all know that a lot of efforts have been put up by ASSOCHAM, FSI, GEM, and all other organizations to make this program feasible and successful. We would like to specially thank Dharkar sir and Arora sir, Neeraj Arora ji. We would also like to express deep gratitude to Suresh Menon ji, our National President of Fire Security Association, for sparing valuable time, and thanks to Ishwar Iyer for sharing his knowledgeable and experience on fire safety and his esteemed guidance. We are grateful to our very own Surinder Baga sir for his talk on earthquake safety. It was simple and crisp and to the point. We are thankful to Rakesh Arora ji for giving concluding remarks, obliged by Mani Khanna ji, Engineer Mani Khanna ji, for ably giving welcome address and comparing the today's session. We are thankful to entire chapter teams of FSAI Chandigarh, GEM ASSOCHAM Punjab chapter. Davinder Gill ji of FSI Delhi chapter extended a full cooperation and support to us. We are thankful to them, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to all of you. Thank you so much. Please be in touch, keep in touch, and keep on sustainable and fire safe buildings. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Please close the program, Mr. Karan. Thank you. Bye-bye. 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 Thank you, sir. Thank you to all of you. Thank you so much. Please be in touch, keep in touch, and keep on.
नीरज सर,
हाँ जी,
आप ना जो बैकग्राउंड पे प्लेटफॉर्म में ऑन कर रखा है उसे हमेशा म्यूट कर दिया कीजिए, क्योंकि अभी आपकी दोनों आवाज आ रही है।
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा। वो आवाज आती रहती है क्या आपको?
जी अभी आ रहा था, आपने म्यूजिक ऑन कर रखा होगा शायद।
नहीं, म्यूजिक नहीं था, वो बैकग्राउंड मैंने ना, मैं एक्चुअली अटेंडी से भी ज्वाइन करके रखता हूँ, तो वो आवाज आपको आ रही थी क्या?
जी जी जी।
तो इसको उसमें म्यूट करने का ऑप्शन नहीं होता है, म्यूट कैसे करें उसको?
सर देखिए आपके ऊपर ना म्यूजिक एंड वीडियो में जाएंगे।
म्यूजिक एंड वीडियो,
हाँ
इसमें नहीं आता है।
अच्छा, आपके पास बहुत ठीक है, तो आप इसमें ऑडियो कंट्रोल में चले जाइए।
अच्छा,
ऑडियो कंट्रोल में जाए,
कंप्यूटर के ऑडियो कंट्रोल में।
हाँ,
मैं वैसे उसको बहुत मिनिमम करके रखता हूँ वैसे।
नहीं सर, वो आ रहा होता है, रिटर्न आ रहा होता है आवाज।
रिटर्न आ रहा होता है? अच्छा 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 अच्छा, चलो ठीक है, देखूंगा वो। मतलब उसमें इसमें कहीं म्यूट करने का ऑप्शन नहीं है एक्चुअली।
सर जो प्लेयर होता है, प्लेयर में है सही सर।
प्लेयर में मिनिमम करने का ऑप्शन है, म्यूट करने का ऑप्शन नहीं है। मतलब मिनिमम हो सकती है, म्यूट नहीं हो सकती। मेरे को एक्चुअली क्या फोटोग्राफ लेनी होती है, स्क्रीन कैप्चर ना, इसलिए मैं उसको ओपन करके रखता हूँ।
अच्छा,
शायद हो गया म्यूट, शायद हो गया है। चलो ठीक है, ठीक है, ओके।